Have you ever sent out dozens of resumes and heard nothing? No calls, no emails, just... Well, you're not alone. Up to 75% of resumes never even reach a human because they're filtered out by Applicant Tracking Systems, or ATS. Frustrating, right? Why does this happen? Hey guys, I'm Lachlan, and after years of analyzing resumes as a recruiter in big tech and Fortune 500, I've seen it all. And let me tell you, most people don't get rejected because they're unqualified. They get rejected because their resume is working against them. To understand, let's talk about signal versus noise, a concept that explains why some resumes get noticed while others disappear. Recruiters spend an average of just 7.4 seconds scanning a resume to decide it's worth a closer look. So if they can't spot your value instantly, your resume gets tossed. And the worst part, no one tells you exactly what's wrong. They just move on. So how do you cut through the noise and make your resume work for you? Today, I'll uncover 6 brutal resume mistakes that keep even the smartest people stuck in job hunting limbo. So stay till the end because I'll even reveal the #1 silent killer that's costing you from getting an interview. Let's dive in. And we're starting with lesson number 6. The biggest mistake job seekers make when writing a resume? They make it about themselves. Sounds weird, right? I mean, it's your resume. Shouldn't it be about you? Not really, because hiring managers don't care about you. They care about what you can do for them. So always think like a hiring manager. Every single bullet point on your resume should answer one question. Why should they care? When I was recruiting for one of my previous companies, I once received 2 resumes for the same role. Both candidates had nearly identical years of experience, same job title, similar skills, and even same industry. But here's what happened. One got an interview immediately. The other, I barely skimmed his resume before moving on. Why? Because the second candidate's resume was just a list of tasks. No results, no impact, nothing that made me stop and think, wow, we need to talk to this person now. Meanwhile, the first candidate, they didn't just list what they did, they showed the impact of their work. They didn't just develop processes, they built a feature that increased user engagement by 35%. Show the measurable results. Did you increase revenue, cut costs, improve efficiency? Numbers make your impact undeniable. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. Let's move to lesson number 5. If you've been blasting the same resume to every job posting and wondering why you're not getting callbacks, this is why. Studies show that 73% of resumes are rejected because they're not specifically tailored to the job opening. So if your resume doesn't fit, it gets ignored. When you tailor your resume, you instantly show employers you're exactly who they're looking for. For example, if a job description mentions project management experience, don't just say managed projects. That's forgettable. Instead, say something along the lines of, led a cross-functional team on a $500,000 project completing deliverables 20% ahead of schedule. And speaking of getting noticed, let's talk about the resume mistake that could actually get you rejected before a human even sees your application. This brings us to lesson number 4. Now you might think a beautifully designed resume with fancy fonts, colors, and graphics will make you stand out. And you're right, but not in the way you want. 98% of large organizations use ATS software, and those fancy design elements, they can break the system, making your resume unreadable. So how do you make sure your resume actually gets seen? Follow these 3 golden rules to optimize for the ATS and recruiters. Use keywords that match the job description. Keep job titles and experience in the correct order. And stick to clean, simple formatting because sometimes less is more. Pro tip, always save your resume as a PDF because a Word document can be visually altered when opened on different systems. But unfortunately, none of that matters if they never even read your resume. So here's the problem. Most hiring managers and recruiters spend just seconds deciding whether to keep or reject a resume. That's why lesson number 3 is critical, because if you don't hook them instantly, you're out before you even have a chance. As a recruiter, we receive hundreds of resumes every single day. We don't have time to read every word. Given that recruiters just spend 7.4 seconds on the initial scan, the top third of your resume is prime real estate. If it doesn't grab your attention, you're out. So use it to highlight your biggest strengths and achievements. For example, marketing specialists with 5 years of experience increasing brand engagement through data-driven campaigns, boosted customer retention by 30%, and led a campaign that generated $500,000 in revenue. See, it shows expertise, impact, and value. That's what gets the recruiter's attention. And another pro tip, use both keywords and numbers to highlight impact and bridge your experience to the job you're applying for. Guys, I do this and research shows that recruiters scan resumes in an F shape. They start at the top left, skim horizontally across job titles and dates, and then they scan down the left side looking for keywords. If your resume immediately shows value, recruiters will keep reading. Now, what if your resume has a shaky job history or time gaps that screams red flag? That's exactly what we're exposing in lesson 2. Let's be real, no one has a perfect resume. Maybe you have a work gap that recruiters might question. Or maybe you switch jobs a few times and worry about looking unreliable. Don't worry, there's a way to fix this. But here's something simple and shocking. Up to 30% of recruiters reject resumes because of an unprofessional email address. That means even if your experience is solid, something as small as partyguy420@gmail.com could instantly ruin your chances. So small details matter. And if you've been job hopping a lot or have unexplained employment gaps, don't leave it to the recruiter's imagination. Own the gap, but do it strategically. Instead of avoiding it, briefly address it. Here's where you do it in your resume. If the gap was due to a major life event, you can briefly acknowledge it in your professional summary. In your work experience, if you took on freelance work, upskilling, or a personal project, list them to show you stayed active. In education, if you use the time to learn a new skill, make sure to highlight it. For example, instead of leaving an unexplained work gap, update your work experience section like this. Now it's not a gap. It's a career move that shows how you're growing, and that's how recruiters stop seeing a red flag and start seeing value. But here's the final and possibly the biggest lesson. Even if your resume is perfect, it won't guarantee you the job. On average, only 2 to 3% of job applications result in an interview. That means for every 50 applications, you might get 1 interview if your resume is strong enough. That's why lesson 1 is a make or break moment. A great resume gets you in the door, but it's the interview that gets you hired. And if your resume doesn't make recruiters curious enough to ask questions, you're missing a huge opportunity because they'll have your resume right in front of them when they interview you. Let's say you list, reduce customer churn by 25% through engagement strategy. You'll already know they'll ask, how? That's your moment to shine. Before the interview, scan your resume for bullet points that invite curiosity and prep mini stories using the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, result. So when they ask about the highlights on your resume, you're ready for an impact-driven answer that paints a story. When you apply these 6 resume lessons, you won't just have a resume, you'll have a job-getting machine. Your resume should now be fixed with the following. Show how you solve problems for employers. Be tailored to the job by using keywords. Be ATS friendly. Have the most valuable information at the top. Address employment gaps strategically. Prepare you to answer interview questions using STAR. And most importantly, it will now help you land and succeed in interviews. Because knowing these mistakes isn't enough. Fixing them is what gets you hired. Some of you may watch this video like, and then do nothing. So here's what I want you to do. Take 10 minutes to review your resume using the lessons from this video and make at least 1 improvement today. Do you think finding a job has become harder than ever? What resume strategies have actually worked for you? Drop a comment below and I'd love to read them all. And if you're ready to take your job search to the next level, hit subscribe and join me here on Level Up with Lachlan. Because the time is now and your future is closer than ever. Check out my other videos for more insider job tips and I'll see you in the next one.